No slapstick comedy, joke, no intro video. There isn't even any fancy editing. It's not a tobacco review. I was asked to get my story out there as a testimony. So I really should preface it with, I'm not looking for sympathy. I just want people to realize that you can survive. You see, growing up, I did suffer some trauma. I'm not going to get into any of that. Not growing up, not my army trauma, none of that. This isn't the time nor the place for it. Yes, I did say army trauma. I deployed to Iraq in 2004 and was discharged in 2007. I ended up getting a service-connected disability rating of 60% because of what I'd seen, what I experienced. But that's not what this story is about. In 2009, I moved to Middle Tennessee. Before we really get into it, it's a hand-carved pipe that I won. I'm smoking some red velvet. That was all it said on the Ziploc baggie from somebody who'd gifted it to me. So I've got the housekeeping out of the way. Let's get to 2009. In 2009, I moved to Middle Tennessee. By late 2010, got married. And I wasn't happy in the marriage. And by my own admission, I did not handle things the right way, and it's not something I'm proud of. But when you know that somebody lives with, I now live with, I don't look at it as though I suffer from post-traumatic stress. To hear sentences from your spouse like, you should go sit on the railroad track and wait for the next train. The world would be better off if you weren't here. You're not as good looking as you think you are. You're not all that. Terms like that, it kind of tears at you. And it makes you wonder, why did you come back from that combat zone? At least for me. So we'll fast forward to Labor Day 2015. She gets arrested for domestic assault. I'm not going to get into exacts on that. I'm just giving you where I was in a frame of mind. Despite being out on bail, bond, whatever, for a violent crime against a family member, my now ex-wife got custody of my 4.5-year-old daughter. And would eventually get full custody. But I jumped the gun. It wasn't my first rodeo. I had already been in a failed marriage, and as I record this video today, my son is 20 years old, and I haven't seen him since the day before his 6th birthday. So I was going down that road again. Failed marriage, make it 2 now. 1 child from each marriage, and I didn't think I was going to see my daughter, just like I hadn't seen my son. Haven't seen my son. On top of that, both of my parents. My mother passing in 2006 from Lou Gehrig's disease. My father passing in 2012, the day before my birthday. Hearing that echoing in my head that the world would be better without me from my second ex-wife. Yeah. I'm going to try and maneuver over here so you can see my tattoo. That's upside down. But it's my Celtic cross. Believe it or not, it's actually covering up a scar. I had, with a kitchen knife, carved the number 22 into that forearm. For those that don't know the significance of 22, 22 veterans commit suicide each and every day. They decide to make the permanent solution to a temporary problem. I was there. I was ready to end it. My parents were gone. Like I said, 2 failed marriages, 2 kids I was never going to see again. This is what was going through my head. At the time, my son was just turning 15. And my daughter 4.5. So for 5 more years, I'd have to pay 2 child supports when I could barely make it on my own. I was getting in way over my head. And to quote a friend that I'll be mentioning in a little bit, Micah Howard, I was drowning. I was way over my head and I was drowning. And when I carved that 22 into my forearm, I was ready to end it right then and there. But carving that 22 into my forearm, I realized the pain. It hurt so much I realized that I could not do it. I couldn't hurt myself anymore. Mainly because, like I said, it hurt. But if there was another way, I could do it. I figured maybe suicide by cop. And there were a few times where the cops were called to my house because I had been drinking alone and people were worried about my Facebook posts, what I was saying. I remember this one time they had me handcuffed to an emergency room gurney, and they were going to transport me to, well, for lack of a better term, a psychiatric facility for a 72-hour psych hold. But already having been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress at such a high rating, I should have been transferred to a VA. And there was a mistake made where my hand that was not handcuffed to a gurney could reach my cell phone. And I called a friend, Steven. My friend was the national co-chair of the Hospitalized Veterans of America. And he and I, we had been friends since February of 2010. And Steven walked out of a meeting for a recording contract to get me transferred to a VA because I was at a county medical facility at the time. Looking back, I didn't know why I called him. I don't know why he walked out on something so important to him. He and I are still friends to this day. He's always believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Another time, I actually think in my drunken state of mind that I was attempting suicide by cop. And that, I don't remember how it all started. I just remember kind of waking up, people in my house. I grabbed a knife, and then it dawned on me that it was the police. Well, they brought me again to the county emergency room. I told the staff that I wanted to go out and have a cigarette. I've been drinking in my house for nearly 2 straight days. No food. I was drunk. Well, I didn't stop to have the cigarette. I just kept walking. And I was picked up by the police and ended up being charged with public intoxication. I still remember that day. That was May the 25th of 2016. 5 days later, a friend of mine that you all know very well got off the plane from South Africa. And things started looking up. Started doing more things. I'm sorry for my phone. Started doing more things out and about. And we later would find that we had more than a friendship. A different story for a different time, I know. But she also saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. That divorce ended up getting finalized a year after it started. And I had to sell the house that we had. That was December of 2016. And for nearly 2 years, we basically sublet from 2 other friends. Didn't have a place of my own. I had a vehicle that was 5 years, if not older. Ended up basically dying on me at 223,000 miles. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about surviving. My friend, eventually, Steven, ended up asking me to be a videographer for an organization that he had because of my work here on YouTube. And the Stop 22 tour ended up having so many members come and go. I'll tell you right now, of course there was Stephen Cochran, Sal Gonzalez, Daniel Broderick, Micah Howard, Wynn Taylor, just so many, and I'm leaving out a lot, I know. Most of them Marines. I refer to them as Marine Corps veterans, but you know what they say, once a Marine, always a Marine. Anytime I would let out the self-deprecating humor, they would get on me about it, because they saw something in me. It started lifting me back up. It showed me that I had worth. That God has kept me here for a reason. To be in Shell's life. To be that father for my daughter. For the longest time, I hid behind the humor. If I'm joking, nobody's going to see what's really going on in my life, you know? Now the joking's just naturally, because I am so much happier. In fact, Steven, in February, it's going to be 11 years since I've met him. Told me just today, in all the time that I've known you, I've never seen you happier. I wasn't focusing on what could happen in the future. I was focusing on what is going on right now. And like Micah's song says, I was drowning. I didn't see a way out of it. And I would have been content drinking myself to death. But look at what I would have missed out on. November 2018, I bought a house with Shell. I've got now a 2017 model vehicle, 55,000 miles. That's compared to 223,000 miles. Now, COVID has thrown us for a loop. But up until recently, up until COVID, I had been seeing my daughter every week. Now I get to talk to her sparingly throughout the weeks. She's not. It doesn't appear to be that she's encouraged to call me, but I do call her. In fact, I'll be calling her after this video. Those who don't know, the screen kind of cuts it off. I wear this cross around my neck. Except for when I shower and when I sleep, this cross is around my neck 24/7. You saw the Celtic cross tattooed on my left forearm. If I had been successful 5 years ago, I wouldn't be able to enjoy the happiness that I'm living now. The happiness of my wife each and every day to be in my life. The pride that I have in being a homeowner. The pride in having pretty much a new vehicle. Pretty much a brand new vehicle. The fact that I've been working the same job for over a decade now. I am a success. And anybody out there who feels that they're drowning, that there's no way out, there is a way out. Let's start with our friends. If you know somebody who's dealing with issues, reach out to them. Don't wait for them to reach out to you, please. That might be too late. If I hadn't reached out to Steven, I could have been gone. But that doesn't always happen. So you never know what difference you can make in somebody's life. Just listen to them. Be that friend. Give them advice. We are our own worst critic. But when someone is in such despair, you never know what you can do for them. I encourage everybody to please watch out for each other. Be that friend to somebody who needs that friend. I'm not gonna lie and say that every day is rainbows and unicorns and roses. There are some days where I get totally stressed out. But keeping it honest, it doesn't bring me back to wishing that I wasn't here. This too will pass. If I had been successful back then, I was back before I started Cigar Smoking Bits 2 on YouTube, which has changed and morphed into Pipe and Cigar Smoking Bits. I wouldn't have met the damn good friends that we have here. I would have missed out on a lot. You know, another thing to look at too. Let's erase that stigma of suicide being cowardly. Like me. I wasn't trying to be a coward. I just didn't see any other way out of it. Sometimes we are so deep into ourselves that we don't see any other way. It's almost like you can't see the tree through the forest. However that saying goes. I probably botched it, but cutting off your nose despite your face, you know? You can't see the tree through the forest. There it is. See, I'm not working on a script. I'm speaking straight from the heart. And a lot of times it takes somebody from outside that bubble to reach out and pull you back in. I don't think that I could have made the 180 had it not been for the Stop 22 tour. Every member of that group that was bringing awareness to the veteran suicide issue, crisis, epidemic, pandemic. If they didn't believe in me, I wouldn't be here today if Shell didn't see in me what I didn't see in myself. And to be quite honest, a lot of times I still don't see in myself what she sees in me. But she does, and that's what makes it beautiful. And I thank you, my TPC, for listening to a story of success.